Welcome back, folks, to Hashtag AskGSM here today for May 27th, 2017, episode 182. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, where normally every single Wednesday right here on the show, I answer your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. It's not a new thing to do it on the weekends. Last week went up on Sunday. Today it's going up on Saturday. Just been a busy past 2 weeks, but we will resume our regular day on Wednesdays starting this coming week. So you got two Hashtag AskGSMs coming your way in the matter of 3 or 4 days. But we're coming off a huge week. I was not active on social media throughout the week, but I did watch Raw, Backlash, SmackDown, TakeOver, the UK show from last Friday. I watched it all, and it was a pretty newsworthy week, to say the least. We're going to talk all about it, including a new WWE champion in Jinder Mahal from this past Sunday at Backlash. A lot of controversial thoughts surrounding that decision as well. But first and foremost, if you want to send in a question, please do so on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant. Send in a question with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not the wall itself. And last but not least, drop a comment on this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So before we get started here, quick shout out for the past two episodes 180 and 181 here on the channel. 180, I talked about it briefly last week. We had Tommy on the show, my now ex-co-host from WrestleRant Radio, now that I've graduated and won't be seeing him on a regular basis. But he was on the show for the first time ever. Had a great time talking wrestling with him and answering your questions from 2 weeks ago, so check that out. Last week we had Haley on, my girlfriend, sort of. She didn't really answer too many questions, but she can be heard for the first time ever on hashtag AskGSM from last Sunday, so check that out when you get the chance. Let's get this started, though, with RJ Marceau, only the second ever person to send in a question via text, along with Jason. So that is unprecedented, to say the least. But Mr. Marceau's question was, he's got two of them, the first one being, who has a brighter future in WWE, Roderick Strong or Hideo Itami? That's a great question. If you asked me 2 or 3 years ago, Strong wasn't even in WWE. He only joined late last year. I would have said Itami just because they were priming him for a championship run. I still say to this day that he was going to be the one to beat Kevin Owens for the belt at that Japan special in Japan on the 4th of July back in 2015 before he got hurt. That spot obviously went to Finn Balor as well. He ran with it. He was a champion for the longest reigning NXT champion of all time. So obviously he was the champion for the long haul. Whether Hideo Itami would have had a similar reign, no one knows. But I do firmly believe before he got hurt and was out for well over a year, that was supposed to be him. That being said, now that he's back, he got hurt again, and now he's back again, obviously. He had a great match with Rude. I would say his best match to date in NXT. Really not saying much. He hasn't had many big matches in NXT. But from the ones that I can recall anyway, I think Itami's best NXT match to date was against Rude at TakeOver last week. But he lost the title match. I didn't expect him to win. I didn't think he should have won. So where does he go now? I would say a heel turn. They kind of teased that on the WWE.com exclusive video they aired after the show with him storming backstage, attacking Cassius Ohno. So maybe they're going that with Itami. They're going that direction with Itami, turning him heel. I'd be fine with that. But the thing with Itami, as talented as he is, still one of the best wrestlers, I would say, in the world right now, even though he's kind of regressed since his time, and the time he's been in NXT, only because he's been hurt twice for a lengthy period of time on both occasions. But that being said, even if, assuming he does get called up to the main roster at some point, no one knows when that might be, how much success will he really amount to? I mean, it's not based off skill, because again, we all know the guy's a great wrestler. It's more based off how WWE will view him. And it's not a Japanese thing. It's not like, there was a point where Japanese stars wouldn't really amount to anything in WWE for whatever reason, from Yoshitatsu to Kenzo Suzuki to, the other guy, the light heavyweight dude, Taka Michinoku from the late 90s. All those guys really went nowhere in WWE, but now we have Shinsuke Nakamura, you have Akira Tozawa in the Cruiserweight division, you have Asuka as the longest reigning champion of any kind in NXT's history. It's not really a Japanese thing anymore as much as it is his size. Like Akira Tozawa, again, another perfect example of a guy that's really, really, really good, I think he could go somewhere beyond the 205 Live division, the Cruiserweight division, just because he can connect with crowds. And I think Itami can too, but I think if he was to ever be called up, he would be destined for the Cruiserweight division, which is not the best thing right now. I think being labeled as a Cruiserweight could be literally just the kiss of death. Maybe not literally, but is essentially the kiss of death. Just because you, other than Neville and Austin Aries, a lot of those guys people just don't care about. The fans do not care about because they've been branded in a certain way, a la the Divas from years ago. Like the Divas match was on, oh, I don't give a shit, because you know it's going to last 2 minutes and we don't care. I feel like the Cruiserweights, if they're not already in that territory, they're quickly approaching it. So I think he's destined for 205 Live, which would probably be the worst thing for him, but I just do not see him getting above a certain level on the main roster. A lot like Neville before he joined 205 Live. It was doing nothing for close to 2 years on the main roster. And, I mean, obviously him joining the Cruiserweight division was the best thing for him. And turning heel, obviously, too. But beyond that, I mean, could you really... I mean, as a heel Neville, maybe, but beyond being a heel, could I really see Neville as a mid-card champion with all the other great talent we have right now? Probably not. But getting back to your question, the reason I bring this up is just because Roderick Strong is not the biggest guy either. He is really the indie circuit personified in terms of he was in Ring of Honor for 10, 15 years, really cut his teeth on the indie scene in PWG, Ring of Honor over in Japan. So Roderick Strong is no John Cena, but he's got the look. The guy's an amazing wrestler. Really, the only thing he was lacking was a character. I know RJ himself has said it. Jason has told me this multiple times. The guy came across like a caw. But after the amazing video package they put together for this guy, talking about his family, his background, his upbringing, the guy got over. There were reports that officials were really happy with the reactions he was receiving on the live events. And even now, like at TakeOver Chicago, the guy got a big pop. Probably one of the bigger reactions of the night at TakeOver Chicago last week. So, and then he won, too. He beat Eric Young. So I think Strong... I don't know if he's going to win the NXT Championship. That might be Drew McIntyre. But Strong Rude at Brooklyn, I'd be all for as well. That could be a great match, too. If it's Strong and not McIntyre beating, Rude for the belt in Brooklyn, then I'd be all for that. But nevertheless, though, I think Strong has a much brighter future in WWE. Again, maybe not based on talent, but just based on how he's a bit taller than Hideo. He would not be destined for 205 Live. He'd probably be an upper mid-card guy, just not a solid mid-card guy at the IC or US title level. He's got the look. Again, his mic skills are a bit shaky, but that background, that story he has to tell now after those video packages that aired for him a couple of weeks ago, the guy's got it all. I think he has a very bright future in WWE. Itami would as well, but I think the injuries kind of backtracked him a bit. They have much bigger signings. Itami, when he came in with a lot of fanfare. But now that you have Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, McIntyre, Aleister Black, Bobby Roode, and so many others that have kind of surpassed him in the pecking order, I don't really know how much further he can go in WWE beyond the Cruiserweight division. His second question, how can WWE fix the women's division that only features one main feud for the title? They were doing a great job of doing additional feuds outside of the championship picture, especially on SmackDown late last year. I mean, there was at one point last year where we had 3 women's feuds on SmackDown. We had the main feud that was Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss. You had Carmella and Nikki Bella, which I thought was a very good feud. And you even had Natalya and Naomi at one point, very briefly, in late 2016. At this point, yeah, for SmackDown, it's 3-on-3, which I hate. RJ knows the friggin' faction wars are terrible. I'm glad they're kind of going away from that. This Tuesday, they're having the Fatal 5-Way match to determine the new number 1 contender to the title at Money in the Bank, and I'm sure they might be doing a Money in the Bank ladder match. I talked all about that yesterday in the random video blog, and whether it's a good idea or not. But, yeah, hopefully beyond that, we will get back to individual stories, because otherwise these people aren't going to get over. Carmella's not going to get over. I mean, she still isn't over, but she's not going to help... further, it's not going to help further developing her character if she's stuck in a 6-woman tag team feud where no one cares about. Same thing with Tamina, who's awful anyway, but being put in a multi-person feud is not going to do anyone any favors. I was hoping we would get past that beyond WrestleMania when we had the whole multi-woman match and no one cared about that just because there was so many women. How can you give a shit when it's like 7 people? We need to get back to individual feuds, so hopefully we are approaching that point coming this Tuesday after the number 1 contenders match. For Raw, we kind of have that right now, with additional feuds outside of the championship picture. On Raw, we have Alexa and Bayley. I guess you could say Sasha and Alexa and Alicia Fox. Not that I really care, but it's something. It's something to keep Sasha busy. We did have Emma and Dana Brooke before Emma got hurt. Thankfully, apparently she's not going to be out for too long, which is great. But I mean, I think Raw, oddly enough, for as much complaining that there was, for myself included, earlier this year, that Raw's women's division really only focused around 3 or 4 women, if that. They're doing a good job of utilizing everyone on the roster at the moment, for the most part, aside from like Mickie James, whose return has been pretty disappointing, to be honest with you. But they have multiple stories outside of the championship picture, if only a few. SmackDown that could do a much better job of that, though, going forward. Mitch G from YouTube, his question was, I'm aiming at becoming a script writer for animation in a long-running card game battle series I'm writing. I have the idea to make a female team based off Sky Dawson and Dash Wilder, with different names, obviously. Do you know if WWE's copyright is strict enough where I would be able to name their signature card the Shatter Machine, along with reference to some of their phrases or nicknames, i.e. top gals instead of top guys? I think if you change the names, like from top guys to top gals, that might work. You're asking the wrong person in terms of copyright, whether they can sue. If you're not doing it, from what I understand, if you're not making money off it, I don't think it's a big problem. Again, don't take my word for that. I'm not exactly sure. But as long as you're not profiting it off of it, I think you might be safe. You might be okay. I wouldn't completely copy all of WWE's ideas in that respect, but it sounds like a good idea. I would just stray away as much as possible from copying exact names and stuff I know that they would have a copyright over. Pretty much every character in their company is copyright, has a is patented or whatever. So I would stay away from that as much as possible, but I don't think it's a big deal if you're doing something on a smaller scale level, and it's not like you're making money off of it or anything like that. Second question, a bit of fantasy booking here, which I admit would never happen, but my brother and I are huge fans of Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross, respectively, and we think it would be really fun if this feud leads to them finding common ground and challenging Authors of Pain in an intergender NXT Tag Team Championship match at a TakeOver special. Does this sound fun to you? Absolutely not. I've talked about it before. I mean, I appreciate that Lucha Underground goes outside of the box with the intergender stuff. No other company really does that for the most part, at least any major company. So I appreciate that, but at the same time, more often than not, even when Lucha does it, it comes across as unrealistic. Like, I can't buy that Sexy Star can beat Pentagon Jr. To me, that just seems silly. It just seems silly. And I know wrestling is all about suspending your disbelief, but that to me is just taking it a step too far. It's not a woman thing. It's not anything along those lines, which is why I criticized the decision to put the top title on her last summer or late last year, whenever it might have been. I think it was late last year when they put the belt on Sexy Star for like a week. It just did not seem believable to me. Nikki Cross and Ruby Riott as a tag team would it sounds kind of cool, actually. Challenging Authors of Pain for the tag titles is just ridiculous. I mean, if any other team, maybe, even that's a stretch. Authors of Pain, if they could kill DIY in 5 minutes, I'm pretty sure they would kill the women in like 2 seconds. So that sounds completely ridiculous, but I appreciate you trying to go out of the box, though. And his third question was, do you ship any wrestlers in storyline? I know you mentioned something about liking the pairing of Sasha Banks and Enzo Amore last summer. So shipping is basically, and Mitch included a link to what shipping is. I already knew what it was based off what my roommate has told me anyway. When you see two characters that you like, for example, you see two characters on a show. I mean, it could be male and male or female and female, but typically it's male and female that are just friends and you would like to see them in a relationship, hence shipping. Any wrestlers in a storyline? Interestingly enough, I always thought AJ and Daniel Bryan would make a cute couple, and they did on TV, obviously not in real life, but they did on TV for quite some time before the whole storyline blew up, and AJ going crazy and all that other stuff. Currently, I don't know if I would quote-unquote ship Sasha Banks and Enzo. I think that was cool for a one-off. That's a good question. Currently, no. I would typically like to see wrestlers kept as apart as much as possible. The women and the men, anyway. There was just such a long period of time where really the only thing the women were good for in WWE were being valets or sex symbols and all this other bullshit. I'm glad we're far away from that, and it's all about they're kind of focusing on their own stories for the most part. Aside from like the one-off Alicia Fox, which is fine. But other than that, I would always say Miz and Maurice, and they did end up getting married. They end up obviously getting married in real life. They were never put together on TV together until just last year. But currently, no. But it's got to be the right couple, though. If they do someone like Alicia Fox and Noam Dar, it just seems like apples and oranges that doesn't really fit together to me in storyline or in real life, whatever. It's gotta be right, but I can't say there's any two wrestlers currently, male, female, whatever, that stand out to me as being a potential relationship, so to speak. Captain Sunshine from YouTube, their question was, so not to state the obvious or anything, but Jinder Mahal as WWE Champion is weird. There has literally nothing been like this before. The closest comparison I can think of is if they had a Puerto Rican tour in 1997 and decided to give the WWE Championship to Savio Vega. And even that's not close enough because Savio Vega actually won pay-per-view matches, which is true. Are there any world title reigns that this can be compared to? No, there's not. There's really not when you really think about it. At least for the WWE title, maybe for the World Championship. The closest that I can think of for the World Championship, where this might make sense, for the World Heavyweight back, 7 years ago, was when Jack Swagger won the World Heavyweight Championship. And we all know that was just a riveting success. Not really. But that's the close, I just thought of this now. As I was reading your question, I was thinking of comparisons. I didn't, prepare for this as I probably should have. But for the WWE title, no. It's like giving the title to friggin', Bo Dallas or something right now. It doesn't make any sense. It's not that Jinder, well, first of all, he's not that good anyway, in my opinion. I think he's not terrible. He's mediocre at best, though. There's nothing that stands out about him as special, really. I know he's the first ever champion of Indian descent. Not that he can't get better, but he's been wrestling for, 15 years now? 10 years now? The guy's not any better now than he was back then. Like, I kind of liked him when he first came into the company back in 2011, like 6 years ago, because he was something different and like the pairing with the great Khali. But it quickly became apparent the guy was nothing special in the ring, on the mic. He's just bland. He's friggin' boring. He just bores me to tears. The Orton match, I saw some people praising it. I could not have cared less. The ending was good. The beginning was good. The middle was boring as shit to me. I'm sorry, but like Jason and I were sitting there almost falling asleep. The cure for insomnia was the middle of that match. And Orton is not the most exciting character himself at certain points, depending on who he's working with. Him and Mahal had very little chemistry, though, as opponents. I cannot say I'm anxiously anticipating their rematch of Money in the Bank next month. But that being said, for Jinder, no. Just any comparison? Again, it would have been like giving a championship to someone who was literally a jobber a month before they won the belt. I know they tried to build him up by giving him wins over Orton and Styles and Zayn in the weeks leading up to the show, but it doesn't take away from the fact that even a month before that, a mere month before the pay-per-view, the guy was a jobber. He was losing to Mojo Rawley clean. The guy who won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania, which was at least built up because Rawley was had some signature wins before winning that Battle Royal, which was also random, but they tried. Not even he was at Backlash. Yet Mahal, the guy who was on the kickoff show at WrestleMania, who actually lost to Rawley in that match, won the WWE title at Backlash in the main event. Like, there was no consistency in WWE sometimes, and that's what bothers me more than anything else. The guy was a loser. It would have been one thing if the guy was a mid-carder. They tried to build him up. If there was a long-term plan in place, like you typically see. What a concept in NXT with guys like, Roderick Strong and McIntyre and Aleister Black. You give him some signature wins, not in the matter of like 3 weeks to rush into building him up as a legitimate threat to the title, but over the course of a couple of months. That's the real problem here. And again, it would be one thing if the guy was like somewhat entertaining. Look, even I know I'm biased because I'm a Zack Ryder fan, but at least Zack Ryder is pretty good in the ring. He's got some character, he's got some story, not the same, I'm Indian, so boomy. That's so stupid. How many times have I talked about that before where With Jinder, it's like, boo me because I'm from another country. Like, that's such 80s bullshit. That's such a tired trope in wrestling that I hate. Like, he cut the same promo this past Tuesday that he did at Backlash, that he did the week before that, and the week before that. You boo me because I'm not one of you, because my skin color is darker. Like, who gives a shit? It's not about skin color anymore. It's about because you fucking suck. You're not good. You know, I'm glad he's getting heat. It's better than people sitting in their hands, so there is something to be said for that. But the guy is just not exciting at all. His mic skills, his in-ring skills, they're all mediocre. I mean, he's got a good presence about him. Not a great presence, but he has something of a presence about him when he wears a suit, and he's got the Singh brothers with him. Like, that's kind of cool, but beyond that, there's just nothing there. The guy screams mid-carder at best, which is what the major problem is here. And again, the guy was an amazing wrestler like Luke Harper or something, then there might be something more, there might be more to that. But no, there's no comparison that can be made here. Just because, again, the only other comparison, I think I alluded to it briefly, for the World Heavyweight Championship, and I didn't mention it, was Jack Swagger when he won the world title back in 2010, when he won Money in the Bank literally out of nowhere, and they had him cash in 4 days later without any build-up whatsoever. It was a cool moment, but the reign sucked. No one cared about the guy. He lost almost every match he was a part of. But even that notwithstanding, even if they have Jinder win matches from here on out, as he has been for the past month, the build-up was just, again, Swagger was in a worse position, and I don't even know why they did that. I know they were high on Swagger at one point, but it's not like with Mahal, they're going on a tour of India, and they needed to build the new Indian star. With Swagger, like literally a month before he won the Money in the Bank briefcase on Superstars, he lost to Santino Marella. That's bad. That's bad. That's the closest comparison I can make to Jinder Mahal winning the WWE Championship. Elena the Y, their question was also from YouTube. I know I'm going to be hoping for a lot here, but how cool would it be that if the Balor-Heyman promos segueing into the Balor-Anderson match was foreshadowing Balor-Lesnar for the Universal Championship, where Heyman turns on Lesnar to help reform the Bullet Club? Think about it. You'll get so much out of it. It reinvigorates Gallows and Anderson. It gives Finn Balor a believable way to beat Brock Lesnar. And it gives Balor someone to talk for him and really hype him up in Paul Heyman. Besides, Brock Lesnar looks better in those Michael Cole interviews anyway than he does prancing around in the background while Heyman recites his usual beast rhetoric. So how about it? No, I love it. I was thinking the same exact thing last Monday when I saw Balor and Heyman in the ring together. I'm thinking, wow, that would be a great pairing. Again, I don't know if, I'm sure it was just pure coincidence that led right into the Gallows-Anderson versus Balor match, or the Balor versus Anderson match. I'm sure that was pure coincidence. But what if it wasn't? What if it was planting the seeds for a future stable involving Heyman, Balor, Gallows, and Anderson? Heyman or not, they should be doing the Balor Club. Maybe not right this second, but at some point. The club's not doing anything anyway. The Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson, aren't doing anything regardless, so you might as well just put them with Balor. I don't know if you make them tweener or face or heel or whatever, but they should be together. There's chemistry there. There's history there. There's a lot to build off of. So I guess we'll see where it goes. But no, I think that'd be a great idea. I was thinking the same thing on Monday. And we'll see if Heyman, shows up on Monday this week to confront like Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns. But I do think Finn Balor is winning that Fatal 5-Way, and we are getting Lesnar and Finn. I don't think we're getting Heyman turning on Lesnar. I think that's kind of, if it didn't happen before with Heyman turning on Lesnar to join like Roman Reigns or something, it's never going to happen. I know they did it back in 2002, but Lesnar's been back now for 5 years. If Heyman hasn't turned on him yet, it's probably not happening. But it would be pretty cool, though. Taha Khan from Facebook, The Velveteen Dream. I love it, and his theme music is incredible, but I'm intrigued to hear what you think. So the Velveteen Dream, the former Patrick Clark, I was a big fan of his on Tough Enough 2 years ago. I thought he was a great athlete. He's gotten better in the ring. He did showcase some skills in that match on Wednesday. I thought the finisher looked great. Everyone does a flying elbow drop now. Bayley does it. Pretty much everyone does it for the most part. It looks great. So the guy's a great athlete. The character, he's very dedicated to it. I will say that much. I just do not see it going too far. It's a lot like Elias Sampson, who, by the way, I literally just realized this the other day. I thought this was something new. Apparently not. According to people, it's been the case for like 3 years now. It's not Elias Sampson. It's Elias Sampson. There's no P in there anymore, apparently. I've been sounding like an idiot for like 3 years now, so I apologize. But anyway, I don't see the character going too far, and a lot like with Mahal, like, oh, I'm Indian, so boo me. The Velveteen Dream, I'm over the top. I'm gay, but I'm not gay. I'm not gonna say I'm gay, but I have a gay gimmick. So boo me again is so passé. I hate when they do shit like that. It's like, but times have changed from 10, 15, 20 years ago, where, oh, I have a gay gimmick, so boo me. It's not gold dust. It just be your own character. Again, I appreciate the dedication to the gimmick. It's not his fault. We'll see where it goes. It could turn into a cult classic. The crowd in Chicago booed the hell out of it on Wednesday, so at least they're reacting, which is good. But it screams. He looks a lot like Orlando Jordan as it is. It screams Orlando Jordan's TNA stint from 2010, which is a massive train wreck, which I felt so uncomfortable watching. I'm sure they won't go all the way with it like they did with Orlando Jordan, where he was literally coming out like, I'm not going to say naked because pretty much all the wrestlers come out like, wearing trunks anyway. But he was wearing like caution tape around himself, and you had guy and girls like making out and just guys making out together. It was a very uncomfortable scene. And it's not a homophobic thing either. It was just really, really weird. And I'm not even really sure what they were trying to accomplish with that. But anyway, so I hope that they obviously won't go that far with it. But I don't know. That's why I was really open to them not doing the gay gimmick for Darren Young. I mean, acknowledging that he's gay, but not making a full-on character out of it, just because it's just not necessary. You do not need to do a gay gimmick and have people boo it in 2017. That just seems so stupid to me. But again, I thought the debut was fine. The match was actually pretty good on his part, on Clark's part. We'll see where the character goes. I just do not see it getting beyond, again, like I said earlier, a certain level. Nick W. also from Facebook has got a couple questions here. His question was, your take on Jinder Mahal becoming champ. Already talked about it. Just the fact he was a jobber 1 month and is the WWE champion the next, there's no consistency there. And I saw one picture too. I'll mention this. I saw one picture on social media after he won the belt, or online or somewhere. It was a picture of Bray Wyatt as WWE champion. The caption said, no one was complaining when Bray Wyatt, when this jobber won the belt. It's like, making reference to him being formerly Husky Harris. It's like, no shit. I mean, the guy wasn't a jobber before he won the belt. But even Bray Wyatt, for as much as we joke about him being a loser and the Wyatt family, what's next for the Wyatt family? What's next for Bray Wyatt? And no one cares about him anymore. I don't care about him. All this other stuff. At least he was winning matches. The guy was, even a year ago when the guy was a loser, I mean, at least he was something close to a main event star. But even when he won the championship, he had won the tag team titles. He won at Survivor Series. He beat Orton at No Mercy. He had a strong showing in the Rumble. The guy was pretty much built up quite a bit leading into the Chamber when he won the WWE Championship. So all the talk about, oh, he was a jobber too, why weren't people complaining about that? It's like, no shit. I mean, John Cena was a jobber when he first showed up. That's not a prime example at all. And it's not a good example whatsoever. Bray Wyatt was not losing on superstars to Titus O'Neil a month before winning the championship. That's not a good example. Jinder just came out of nowhere, and Bray Wyatt is infinitely more interesting than Mahal ever has been, currently is, and probably ever will be. His second question, your take on how long John Cena has left in WWE. It's not going to be anytime soon, and now he's like leaving to do shows and host this and host that and do this and do that and do movies and stuff. I don't think he's leaving anytime soon. He's always going to be a part of the company in some form or fashion. Obviously, he's never going to be a full-timer again, at least for not a long period of time. Like, he'll be back full-time for a couple of months and then leave again. But he's always going to be a part of WWE, even if, I would assume for the next 10 years, honestly. Even if he's doing part-time stuff as he is now. It's not like he's going to be leaving anytime soon just because he's doing movies and stuff. He's not The Rock, trust me. But no, I think John Cena will forever be a part of WWE in some form or fashion, but in terms of his wrestling career, probably the next 10 years at the very least, with him doing part-time stuff as he is right now. Third question, your pick on who wins Money in the Bank. I've talked about it before. I've said either Zayn or Corbin. I'm going to stick with Corbin. So the combatants were announced this past Tuesday on the show. It's AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura. Those two alone is going to be amazing. But those two, Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, Shinsuke. I already said Shinsuke. Corbin, and Zayn. So those 6 guys will be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. I don't think they're writing Zayn out of the match. I know he was attacked by Corbin on Tuesday. They could. And I said on Wrestle Rant Radio, what about Shelton Benjamin? That'd be pretty cool. I doubt it, but it'd be cool, though. I'm going to go with Corbin. Styles doesn't need it. He can get back into the main event anytime he wants. He still technically has his rematch, too, which he has yet to get, but he still has the rematch if he wants it. Owens does not need the briefcase. Nakamura would be cool, but I don't think he needs it. Ziggler, no thanks. And that just leaves Zayn and Corbin. I think Zayn, again, it'd be cool, but I'm going to go Corbin. I know we talked about Zayn as a potential Money in the Bank winner a couple of weeks ago, but Corbin, it just fits his character. He can cash it in on Orton. I know someone else, I think Sal had an idea about that, which we'll talk about briefly, but I'm going to stick with Corbin. For all the talk about him losing a lot, I think is leading to him winning the Money in the Bank, as it usually means, when people lose a lot, it usually means they're winning Money in the Bank, for the most part. Or if they lose a lot, then they're cashing in. Either or, it usually results in one or the other, but I'm going to stick with Corbin for right now. Something might change in the next couple of weeks, but for now, I'm going to stick with Corbin as my pick to win Money in the Bank this year. In his last question here, who do you think will be going to NXT from the indie circuit? Oh, my bad. I read your question wrong. I put down Oney Larkin. I thought you said who is going from NXT to the indie circuit. My bad. There's a lot of people. If you're talking about from the indie circuit to NXT, 5 people in particular from Ring of Honor that recently left Ring of Honor. Adam Cole's a guarantee. It's more a matter of when than if at this point. Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish have been rumored to be coming in. I'd rather see them come in as a tag team. O'Reilly seems like a lock. I have seen Fish doing stuff for Ring of Honor in recent weeks, recent months. I don't think he's under a full-time contract. He has been beaten clean quite a bit in the past couple of months, which would indicate to me that he's not there full-time anymore. And he's waiting to be brought into WWE. So Bobby Fish and O'Reilly would be great. O'Reilly, again, is another lock. I don't know what the hell he's doing. I think he's just been keeping quiet on the indie scene, but I think he is coming into NXT very, very soon. Donovan Dijak, another former Ring of Honor guy. The guy's got the size, the skills. He's very, very good. I think Dijak is also a lock at some point. I think there was some talk about Ring of Honor or WWE tampering with Ring of Honor talent contracts or something, so they're waiting for that to blow over. Once that's over with, I could see Dijak going into Leo Rush too. Leo Rush is another amazing athlete. I think he would do really, really well in NXT. Beyond former Ring of Honor guys, I'm trying to think. I know there's a bunch of people that WWE was looking at. Ricochet, I think, is another guy that's WWE bound eventually. Maybe not anytime soon. I think he has to wait until Lucha Underground is off the air, or they're done with his character, or some weird shit like that, or they gotta wait until the Lucha Underground contract states that you have to wait until Lucha's off, you're not on TV anymore before you can go anywhere else. So I guess once that is done, maybe he can go to NXT or WWE or whatever, maybe by the end of this year. So those are a few people I think are NXT bound at some point in the foreseeable future. Steve R., also from Facebook, how can WWE make a champion out of Jinder Mahal but screw up the Wyatts and Roman Reigns' push? Trust me, my man, I am wondering the same exact thing. I have no idea. They seem... It's not that they can't make stars. There's quite a bit of talk as of late with WWE, their inability to make stars and all this and all this, all this and all that. They can make stars when they want to. Only when it's convenient for them. Where was this push for Luke Harper 3 months ago? Where was this consistency for Bray Wyatt? You know what I mean? In terms of him pushing, in terms of them pushing people who deserve it, or are as good, if not better, than Jinder Mahal. They're going to make a champion out of those people they want to make a champion out of. And with Roman Reigns, it's different because they want to make a champion out of him. They want to make him the next guy, obviously. But they're really... It's not that they're incompetent. It's just that they just push either the wrong people or they're just focused on other things. I couldn't tell you. There's no rhyme or reason for why WWE Vince does certain things, why he does this and why he does that. There's really no rhyme or reason. But yeah, my dude, it just boggles my mind as much as it does yours as to why they screw up certain things, but they get it right with the wrong people. Donche K, also from Facebook, thoughts on Taz as a wrestler and a commentator. I never saw too many of Taz's matches. I was always surprised he didn't do more in WWE before he became a commentator in early 2002, after the invasion ran its course, thankfully. I mean, the guy was a big star in ECW, so I'm not sure why he wasn't a bigger star in WWE. I know because of his size, he was small, but the guy was amazing in terms of his suplexes. I'm really shocked Taz did not last longer. I think it was an injury thing. Maybe it was the neck thing. I'm not really sure as to why he retired as soon as he did. But he was good in ECW. The guy was as big as they come in terms of popularity and star power. As a commentator, I thought he was great on SmackDown. I hated his TNA work. When he joined Aces of Eights in like 2012, 2013, I think it was 2013, and he was a heel commentator for the next 2 years during his time in TNA, the guy was absolutely unbearable. Maybe not as bad as Josh Matthews, but the guy sucked. Taz was not good. He was not motivated. Like, when he's motivated, he's quite good. And in WWE, at least on ECW and definitely on SmackDown early on, he was motivated. Taz was great. The guy didn't give a shit at certain points either. Like, if you go back and watch the 2008 WWE draft, when ECW just got wrecked by Raw and SmackDown, they lost Kane, they lost CM Punk, they lost all these other guys, and Taz makes this amazing comparison on commentary. He goes, it's like a baseball league, and we're like the Little League baseball team, and we're, all the other teams are taking our kids. We need kids! And he's like yelling on commentary that they need kids, they need star power, and all this other stuff. It was just amazing. So again, when motivated, the guy is great. When he's not, he sucks. Emmanuel A. from YouTube as well. I think I forgot to put this with the YouTube questions, but his question was, that question about long matches actually reminds me of something. Have you heard about the How To Wrestling podcast? Basically, it's a UK podcast where a man is introducing his girlfriend to various wrestlers and wrestling topics, one of which was recently 40 minutes long, over 40 minutes long, in the episode How To Long Matches, hashtag How To Long Matches. I genuinely recommend listening to it when you have the time. The first match they cover is Cena versus Shawn Michaels from the April 23rd, 2007 Raw, and they bring up some interesting points concerning that match I never thought about before. Never heard about it, but I'll give it a shot when I have the time soon. At V4 Volkner from Twitter, his question was, do you agree with the decision to break up DIY when they could have made an impact on the tag team division and either brand on the main roster? No, I'm fine with it. I mean, no, DIY is one of, if not the best tag team in wrestling right now, or was anyway, before they split up. I mean, they can always reunite at some point down the road, but there's just no place for them right now on either show. Like on SmackDown, you got Usos and New Day coming for the SmackDown tag team titles. On Raw, you have the Hardy Boys, you have Enzo and Cass, you have the Gallows and Anderson, the Club, you have Cesaro and Sheamus. The Revival will be back soon. There was just no place for them on Raw either, so there would have been just no reason to call them up at this point. And because they've done everything there is to do with the NXT tag team titles, there was no point in sticking together and staying together. So splitting them up was a good idea, especially since I think Ciampa is hurt right now, and he might be for the foreseeable future. So now Gargano can go off and do his own thing for the next couple months before Ciampa gets back and they face off at some point. So I mean, it was heartbreaking to see, but like in a good way. Like, screw you, Ciampa, for turning on your best friend. You're a piece of shit kind of way. His next question, in addition to the DIY thing, do you think hashtag DIY is, or rather was, the best tag team in 2017, giving the instant classics, or 3 instant classics, and 2 match of the year candidates? So yeah, I mean, of 2017, we're only 5 months in, so it's hard to say whether they will be the tag team of 2017. But yeah, this year they've had 3 great matches with Authors of Pain and the Revival in Orlando. They didn't win the belts, though. They lost all 3 matches. Their best match came last year when they beat the Revival for the belts in Toronto. And they also had that amazing match in Brooklyn, too. So I wouldn't have argued if you said DIY was the tag team of 2016. 2017, probably not, just because they lost all 3 matches. All 3 matches were great. But I'm sure by the end of 2017, it might be the Usos, or it might be the Hardy Boys, or the Revival, or another tag team. At the Wrestle Guy, Sal's question was, with WWE not going to India until September, which I didn't know, does Jinder Mahal hold the championship until after the tour ends? That's interesting, because I talked about this last week when someone asked, does Jinder, if he wins the belt, which I said he will, and he did, does his reign last over 100 days? I said absolutely not, and I'm sticking to that. I just don't think Mahal is going to stick as champion. Maybe 2 months. I could see him beating Orton at the Money in the Bank show. I think he might even drop it there, to be honest with you, back in Orton's hometown of St. Louis. But if he doesn't drop it there, I could see him dropping it in July. Even at SummerSlam, I think would still be under 100 days, so I would see him dropping it there. But I do not want to see Mahal as a long-term WWE champion a la JBL. It's just not going to work. The guy's just not that good. At least JBL had a great character. Mahal's character does not feel like a main event caliber character. It just doesn't. So we'll see how long it lasts. But I didn't know the India tour was until after September. I mean, he doesn't have to be champion. Like, they could take the belt off of him and still make him a big deal. Like, they could still make him a top-tier talent on SmackDown, but not be WWE champion, you know? He could still go for the belt going into that tour, but he doesn't have to be champion. I hope he's not champion until then. That would just be ridiculous. He probably will be, now that I say that, but... And I've seen some people say that he won't, he won't drop the belt until Cena comes back to beat him for it, which is just the Rusev thing all over again, which I really hope they don't do. That would just be the absolute worst thing they could possibly do. And having Cena come back and beat Mahal for the belt for the big old 17, that would just be terrible. So I hope that's not what they do. They probably will. But I hope his championship run is not for the long run. Is not for the long haul. Sal's second question: Who do you feel is the one to take the title off of Jinder Mahal? I had a scenario of Sami Zayn beating him only for Baron Corbin to cash in on him. That's a great idea. The only issue with that is the fact that the title has changed hands so many times. Something that has not been brought up enough is the fact that in 2017 alone, the WWE title has already, it's only May, the WWE title has changed hands 4 times at every pay-per-view that it's been defended at. Rumble, Chamber, WrestleMania, and now Backlash. That's ridiculous. Hopefully... I mean, again, it goes back to what I was just saying and ties back into your previous question about does he hold it for the long haul and then that's when Zayn cashes in, or that's when Zayn beats him for it and then Corbin cashes in. I don't want another title change anytime soon, but I do because I don't want Jinder as champion. So that's like the dilemma we run into at the moment. But that wouldn't be the worst thing because they do have the Zayn and Corbin history, obviously playing off the attack with Corbin just beating the hell out of Zayn on Tuesday nights, so then go back to that by having Corbin cash in on Zayn. And if anyone's going to have a 2-second WWE title reign, it's going to be Zayn, not because he doesn't deserve a long one, but because it fits his character. A lot like the NXT title reign was not very short. It was not very, it was not, I think he's the shortest NXT, no he's not. I think Samoa Joe, after he held the belt for like 2 weeks or something before he dropped it back to Shinsuke. But, Zayn was champion for all of 2 months. Back in 2014, 2015, before he dropped the belt to Kevin Owens. He was not champion for very long either, even there. And I think it's going to be the same situation. If he ever wins the championship in WWE, I think if Jinder Mahal can win the WWE championship, anyone can become WWE champion. Let's face it. So, that being said, yeah, I mean, if that's going to happen to anyone, it would be Sammy. So I hope it happens that way, because Sammy is WWE champion, if only for a second, would be cool. And then you can have Corbin cash in and do that feed over the title. That'd be pretty awesome if I do say so myself. At Sean Markistic, how long will Mahal's reign last? Again, hopefully not long at all. It could last until the India tour in September. I really hope not, because that's literally 4 months away. That'd be ridiculous. But hopefully it's not more than a month. In a perfect world, he drops it next month to Orton. But I don't know. Hopefully they change my mind, but so far I'm not buying it. His second question: push, repackage, and release Samoa Joe, Bray Wyatt, and Seth Rollins. Good question. I would push Samoa Joe. I think the guy is great. I think Samoa Joe can be that next. I know he's not like young. He's not a young up-and-comer, but Samoa Joe is awesome, even in 2017. He's got a great look. He plays that badass character to a T. So I could definitely see him being a new top heel on either show. I would push Samoa Joe, repackage Rollins. I like Rollins as a face, but it's not that he's not over, but he's not as over as he could be, which is what I think Stone Cold meant about the whole Seth Rollins comment, which I think I talked about here on the show a while ago, a couple of weeks ago, when Stone Cold said, oh, he's not over. That's not what he said. He just said he's not as over as he could be, which is true. Like, they need to make him either a badass or just stick with one character. They made him the sympathetic, injured dude. They made him the badass. They made him the stooge for the Authority. They need to stick with one character and just run with it for Seth Rollins. So hopefully once they do that and they stick with that character, like what he should have been when he came back a year ago. Like the whole redesign, rebuild, reclaim thing I thought was great. Then they had him rip on the fans, which was a complete just mistake, just a total disaster because people did not want to boo this guy, and it fucked up his entire face turn for months later. But I would repackage Rollins and release Wyatt. I hate to say it, but Wyatt's a great character, but by this point, and it can still be salvaged by turning face or whatever, but in the ring, he's not as good as Rollins or Joe, not by a long shot. He's not as much of a mainstay in the main event scene as Joe and Rollins are. And his character, it's like I feel like I've been watching the same thing for 3 or 4 years. I'm a big fan of Wyatt, but I would repackage Rollins before I'd repackage Wyatt, just because I feel like Rollins has much more longevity in WWE compared to Bray Wyatt in terms of Bray Wyatt. And I mean, it's one of those things. He doesn't have to win a championship, and I know he did. He won the WWE Championship back in February and held it for less than 2 months. But just his promos and in the ring, he's not as valuable of an asset as Rollins and Joe are, in my opinion, at this stage. At Scarlet1, similar question also from Twitter. Push, repackage, release. So we went with the main eventers, now it's the jobbers. Elias Samson, Jinder Mahal, and Eric Young. I've never been the biggest. That's a great question because you probably know I'm not the biggest fan of all three guys, but including Eric Young, but I would push him. I like him in the sanity role. I mean, I hate to say I would push him, but I don't want to repackage him. That's the thing. I would push Samson too. I put Samson down again in my fucking document. Fuck that. It's Samson, not Sampson, which I've been saying for 2 years now, apparently. It's Samson. Anyway. With Young, I don't want to repackage him. It's not that I want to push him. I just don't want to repackage him because I think he's great right now in the whole sanity role. I think that's perfect for him. By push, I mean maybe put in the main roster, which I don't think is necessary, but it could work in the main roster, maybe. But I would push Young, repackage Elias, the Drifter, because I thought his Raw debut, honestly, was quite good. I thought it was well handled on Monday night last week, so I thought it was well done. Maybe take away the singing thing, but I like the brooding, mysterious, enigmatic persona, aura he's had about him backstage, which is pretty cool. If he can maintain that, they might have something with him, with the Drifter on Raw. But, so they can repackage that, tweak it slightly, and then release Mahal. I know he's the current WWE champion, but again, compared to Elias, compared to the Drifter and Eric Young, he does nothing for me. In the ring, mediocre, as is Young in Elias and the Drifter, but still, just Jinder Mahal just bores me to tears. And the Drifter did at one point too, but he's been a lot better utilized on the main roster than he ever was in NXT, oddly enough. And then Eric Young, I feel like, is just a way better in all aspects, and even him I'm not the biggest fan of, but he is just way better in every respect compared to Jinder Mahal. And the final question from at Scarlet1, best and worst of NXT TakeOver Chicago and Backlash. Best of NXT TakeOver, the main event was great. Obviously, match of the night being the Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate match, which was friggin' phenomenal. Every match in the show is pretty good. Like, the quote-unquote worst of the show was the women's match, but even the women's match was pretty good. It was probably the weakest match in the entire show, but even that match was pretty good. So overall, great show. Really not much bad to say about it whatsoever. For Backlash, worst. Again, the main event kind of bored me in the middle, bored me to tears, but it wasn't terrible. Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, I like that Harper won, but the match was completely pointless. And, what was the other match? The women's match. It's just completely meaningless. That was just a complete waste of time. So I would include that among the worst. The best of Backlash, Obviously, Owens and Styles, I thought was the match of the night. Great match there, and they're going to have even better matches down the road as the feud continues. The tag team title match was better than I thought it would be, so I'll say that was among the better parts of the show. The opener, Nakamura and Ziggler, people were crapping all over it. What a weak debut for Nakamura. It's like, people, he didn't fucking lose. Like, what do you expect? It's not like he wasn't over or something. The people loved him in Chicago. I know people were hoping for a more dominant debut from Nakamura, but they were going for a good match, and they had a really good match. Like, what more can you ask for? Other than what you want, you know what I mean? I don't know. That's just appreciate how huge he was over with the crowd, and how he came across like a star. Stop nitpicking. I know people have their problems with it. You can nitpick, but don't say it was the worst debut of all time. It's like, give me a break. But anyway, guys, that is hashtag AskGSM here today for episode 182, May 27th, 2017. I appreciate you taking the time out of your Memorial Day weekend to check out the show. Again, thoroughly appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Enjoy the holiday on Monday. But before then, we'll be back on Wednesday with another all-new episode of hashtag AskGSM. Before then, send in your questions by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm. Or rather, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post. I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but not least, drop a comment in the comment section down below. I'll be sure to include it in next week's edition. So that being said, guys, one more time, check out the last 2 episodes of hashtag. From 2 weeks ago, we had Tommy Sharp on. Awesome episode. And last week, we had my girlfriend Haley on, albeit briefly. She didn't talk the entire time, not by a long shot, but she was on temporarily. So check out that episode at your leisure. Be sure to give this episode, a thumbs up, and all the other episodes, thumbs up. Drop a comment, share the video, and of course, subscribe to the channel for daily content every single day of the week. And this is not a new weekend thing. We will be back on Wednesday, starting this coming Wednesday. And until then, guys, have an awesome holiday weekend. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.